Working as a journalist in Zimbabwe is quite a horrendous and a horrible experience in terms of the fact that many journalists have been trained by the state using taxpayers' money. But since 2000, the government has gone on a sustained program and processes of shutting down newspapers. Nobody has claimed or acknowledged bombing all newspapers that were deemed to be anti-government. One of our colleagues was abducted from outside his house, and his body later found mutilated. Our suspicions are further confirmed that up to now we are not aware of any investigations that have taken place as regards the issue of the abduction and the subsequent murder of Edward Chikomba. His name was Edward Chikomba. Although the laws were amended to say that accreditation is no longer a requirement, you find that the police, a lot of state officials require or demand that you produce that accreditation card.
This was the law that required journalists to register before they were able to practice.
Yes.
And a number of journalists were arrested and stopped from
more than 100. And strangely enough, all those who were arrested were from the private media. So you find officials make it difficult to operate. Then, of course, issues like lack of employment opportunities. A lot of our colleagues, universities and colleges are churning out thousands of journalists, journalism graduates. And as soon as they graduate, they face the dilemma of not being able to find a job. And so that's a very traumatic experience.
How do people just manage to live and do their jobs as journalists?
Well, I hope this would not be misconstrued, but I always liken Zimbabwean journalists to guerrillas or guerrilla journalists. They will find all sorts of ways to survive. For example, the internet cafes have become a new theater of operation. They have no access to proper newsrooms. That is, those who are working for online or foreign media organizations. The internet cafe has become where they operate from. And there are, of course, several, including in the state public media, who use the official workplace to then moonlight for other organizations.
As journalists or in different jobs?
As journalists.
Coming back to the economy, do you have many cases of journalists facing real hardship?
Yes, a lot of colleagues are facing hardships. Well, naturally, number one, when a lot of when your jobs or your organization is shut down, one of the things that you feel is the problems or difficulties of not having a job, and there have been several cases like that. And then secondly, when you graduate and you are bewildered when you find that you can't work anywhere. And thirdly, when the system does not believe in creating or opening up new jobs. This new animal called the Access to Information and Protection of Privacy Act came into place. All it has done is to shut down media organization. It has never opened any new media organization. So hence the increase in hardships. And of course, when the general economy is in a meltdown, journalists who generally are some of the worst paid throughout the world are bound to feel the pinch.
When inflation is at billions %, how do people just survive day to day? Do salaries go up by the same amount?
Well, one of the things about Zimbabwean people is that you can never understand is how they are able to deal with all these hardships, and they are such an enterprising people. Zimbabwe is more like a do-it-yourself kind of economy. There's very little electricity, so you install your own solar energy. The water is not properly purified, so you find your aqua taps and you purify your own water. No electricity, so you find your own firewood. No bread in the shelf, so you buy a bread maker somewhere and you make your own bread. No this and that, you find something. So the innovation is still there. And
you do all those things yourself?
Oh yeah. It's
you
like,
make your own bread?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's more like a do-it-yourself kind of economy.
What can British journalists do to help?
British journalists have already done something. When there was a break into our offices and our equipment was vandalized, the British journalists got together and sourced the laptop, which is being used now by our accounts department, and for that we are grateful. But however, as Zimbabwean journalists, we ask of our colleagues in the NUJ UK to assist us with equipment such as laptops, of computers, cameras, and whatever it is that they can lay their hands on, because most of our journalists in Zimbabwe are not able to afford the expensive internet cafe fees. And as a union, we are building up resource centers in major parts of the country, so that colleagues can just walk into a resource center, write their story, and go wherever they are going. That way they will be able to bypass the issue of cost, but at the same time make sure the Zimbabwean story is heard. And then of course there's the issue of training. It's been 8 years since Zimbabwean journalism has been in a downturn, and 8 years of doing things badly means it will be difficult to recover that lost space or ground. And therefore, where possible, we need to be able to get into some form of partnership with our colleagues in the UK to ensure that quality and professional journalism remains as part of our agenda. Because I can imagine what would happen if the airwaves were freed today and everybody was now free to operate, register a newspaper. What kind of journalism would be practiced? Most of it would be atrocious, because people haven't been operating, haven't been doing the right thing. You find people, for the sake of expedience, write a one-sided story because they can't be bothered to find out what the government thinks, because they are afraid of being arrested. The same would be for colleagues who are on the pro-government side, that they don't want to be known by the opposition activists that they wrote this. So you always have opinionated and one-sided stories, and we need to recover that lost ground in terms of quality journalism.